Alrighty, well, officially welcome to tonight's session on evaluating your college essay. Again, this is for folks who already have an essay draft started. If you're earlier in that process, we're still here to help you. This is great information, but we have some better resources, including those one-on-one appointments. My name is Marielle Starrett. I work at Granite Advance as an education and career pathways specialist, and I really love my job. It just means that I get to help students in webinars like these, as well as one-on-one appointments, other presentations. We've got print media on our website and all sorts of wonderful things like a phone line and an email. That way you can get in contact with one of our counselors as soon as you need us. So let's jump right into tonight. When we think about reading your essay, I want you to think about doing a few read-throughs, few rounds of edits. Round one is going to be looking at specifically the content of your essay. So a good college essay is, for starters, the black and white of it, it's between 450 and 650 words. So if you're not in the word range, either keep adding and keep thinking and brainstorming, or you're gonna have to look and pare down. And you get students who are all over that spectrum, that's totally okay. The best college essays will showcase who you are in your own words. So when you have that first essay draft, what you want to be looking for, first read through, what values can you pull out of your essay? So when I read a student's essay, the first thing that I see is the words on the page. I usually read it at least once to go through it and be like, okay, holistically, what's going on? Then the second time I read it is, okay, this sentence is telling me this thing about the student. I can pull things out from in between the lines. I can tell that the student really cares about their family, about this specific extracurricular, about something that they're passionate about, a hobby of theirs, things like that. I notice that they value things like sustainability or long-term goals or motivating factors, whatever that might be. This person might have a lot of grit or determination, things like that. What are the things that I learn about you when I read your essay? So you can take a highlighter to that and you can say, okay, every time I see the value of family represented, I'm going to highlight it in pink. Every time I see the value of financial literacy, highlight that in green. Anytime I see the value of future readiness, yellow. And then you look at your thing and you go, oh, that's a lot of pink. But I think that as a person, I value all three of these things equally. And since this is my first introduction, I want to add some more balance, maybe put in some of my other values. Or maybe you're saying, oh, okay, like I'm showing one value, but I have 15 values or I have 3 values. Figure out what parts of you want to show. I also think that a good essay is elastic, right? That topic should be able to be stretched and pulled into multiple pieces of your life. So you have lots of examples that kind of show different pieces of you in a way that has that kind of common thread and theme, unifying it together. Another telltale sign of a great essay is that it's captivating. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm excited to keep reading. We've seen a lot recently of essays. Your college essay is a personal statement, not like an English essay, doesn't need a thesis statement, but you do want it to have like a really great opening sentence, opening paragraph where it goes, oh, okay, I'm excited. I want to keep reading this. Or maybe it's like, oh, I'm figuring this out as I go. And then maybe that last paragraph really brings it together, or you tie back to the front and you go, oh, okay, like that makes sense now. Like, oh, cool. I think some essays can have that kind of hook that is something really shocking. It's like, we talk about one a lot of when I was 8, I shot my brother. And you're like, oh my gosh, like what the heck? And another tip and trick about essays, do not admit to committing crimes in that. Admissions readers are mandated reporters and you are showcasing your best work. But that's a hook. That's a crazy hook. I shot my brother. By the end of the essay, you realize it was a BB gun. They were playing values that were pulled through that were family, commitment, care for one another, just genuinely being outside and playing and things like that. And you see that person apologizes and there's a lot more to that story, but it has that captivating, okay, I'm ready, I'm in. You can do that in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be like jolting. Sometimes students, especially if you are just starting your essay, might get caught up on creating that hook. Usually, as you start writing, and you'll keep writing, that hook will naturally come out. And especially if you have somebody else read your essay, they might be like, oh, wow, this sentence is incredible. It really showcases your writing level and it really kind of unifies the story. And maybe that's in paragraph 3. That's totally fine. You can move, chop and dice and slice and move things throughout your essay as one of your editing rounds. Next question you want to be asking is, how repetitive is your essay? So 450 words, while it is the most substantial part of any of your college application, unless you've got a really long supplemental essay, it's not a whole lot of space when you think about it. 650 words, that's more space, but it's still not a whole lot of space. So make sure you're using that well. It can have intentional repetition. I read an essay recently that was really interesting, going into the meaning of their sister's name, meaning life, because her sister was in a situation where she was at risk of losing her life. So they kept kind of using her name repetitively and then tied that back in as that unifying thread. So you can use repetition to your advantage, but you don't want to be highlighting everything in pink with one value and one piece of who you are and your personality if you have lots of things that you want to showcase in that space and time that you have available to you. And then you want to see in an essay the balance here, and this is your tightrope moment of who you are and what you do. So they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Actions speak louder than words, right? So you can say, I am this person so many times, but what do you have to back that up? How can you prove that? The thing about the college essay is that it's not your activities list. You want to have that right amount of balance of I'm telling my story and showing you here and there on a few examples what I mean by that, or I can kind of prove that. And there may be other pieces of your application that allow you to elaborate on that. So when you think about these examples, is it the best example for that value? So say you value family. Is the best way to showcase your value of family? I think about my own life. Is it that I am the youngest child, or is it that me and my siblings instituted a Sunday dinner every night and I still showed up even when I was annoyed with them? Or is it that we used to knock on our walls at night and had a little code going on? Or even now that we're married and living separate lives and things like that, are we, is it weekly FaceTimes? Is it whatever it may be? All of those things represent that value of family to me and showcase it in different ways. As I was going through that list, you might have thought, oh, okay, like this is a stronger demonstration of that. To me, the strongest demonstration of my value of family, because it's personal and authentic at this point in my life, is those Sunday dinners. They mean a lot to me. We bond a lot. We kind of pause in a busy society. And I'm able to speak to that and elaborate in a really true way. So that could be the best example. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't take the time to brainstorm 5, 6, 7 ways that family shows up in my life as a value. So take the time to do that. And as you're rereading your essay, are the examples that you chose the strongest use case of those examples? And then you can also look at your essay and think, this is something that I really want to showcase holistically with my application, because your application at large is that introduction. The essay is the biggest piece of that. That's why we have separate webinars on just your essay. We have separate workshops on just your essay. But you have other spaces. So your essay, tell them who you are, share your story, have a little bit of examples of that, right? Doesn't need to be a resume, and it doesn't need to be like ridiculously braggy, right? You have your honors and awards list for that. You've got your activities list, and it doesn't have to be all about, say, when I was in high school, fun fact about me, I had 13 concussions. So there was a dip in my transcript based on my medical history, right? At the time, I thought that I had to share that in my essay to accommodate for that. Now there's an additional information section. So if there's something about you that you think needs to be a part of your application, but isn't the first thing you tell people in your life, feel free to put that in the additional information section. If you have more questions about how to use that space, we are happy to walk you through that. I'm happy to walk you through that. Feel free to put any questions in the chat, throw comments. At the end of this presentation, we'll give you our email and our phone line. Ask any of those, or if you have more detailed questions, we can sit one-on-one and discuss those with you. But just be aware of the other pieces of your application, right? So don't be repetitive in that way. So if you put something on your activities list, 4 out of your 10 activities are all soccer related, and then your essay is a soccer story, and your honors and awards are all of the medals you won playing soccer, and you're, just fully soccer and all of these things, but then all of a sudden, like, you also really love dance, or you also really love robotics. Showcase those different things through your application, and give yourself the space to show who you are fully and completely, because that's what an admissions counselor wants to see, who you are in and out of the classroom and who you're going to be on their campus someday. So second read through is the easier one. Your second read through when you're looking at your essay. So you've started, you have your idea, you started free writing, you just got it all on paper. You've now picked the best examples. You are showcasing who you are. You feel like thematically it makes sense. The flow is there. This is a good representation of yourself. At this point is when you want to take a step back, read through as a copy editor. So put on a specific hat that says, I'm going to be looking for capitalization. I'm going to be looking for punctuation. I'm going to look for spelling errors that weren't caught by that squiggly red line. I'm going to see if I wanted to use an em dash instead of a semicolon or whatever else it may be. Because as much as your essay is telling who you are in your story, it is also showing that you can write at a collegiate level to a certain extent. And again, this is your first impression. You don't want to reach out your handshake when it's shaking because you know that you're strong enough to have a good handshake, right? So you know you're a strong enough writer, spend some time copy editing. Make sure you are within that 450 to 650 word count, making sure proper nouns, so people, places, and things are capitalized. So your name, if it's in the essay, your friend's name, the city, Paris, whatever else it may be, make sure those things are capitalized. If you're talking about Cheetos, making sure Chester the Cheeto, Chester the Cheetah is capitalized because he is a specific thing, and the brand Cheetos is also capitalized. Making sure you're using that punctuation. I think that punctuation is one of the greatest assets you have when filling out a college application when it has word counts, right? Especially when you're looking at things like your activities list or that additional information section. You can use punctuation to get around short word counts to tell even more of your story in a short amount of space. But especially you remember from your SATs, probably you had to learn what commas go where. Take some time to look at that. Punctuation should ultimately be aiding your cause and guiding that reader through your essay, especially in a way that your college essay, there's no formatting rules to it per se, that instead, even when you're copy and pasting your essay, sometimes paragraph breaks come in funky. You can use your preview feature on that. We'll talk about that. But if you have a well-placed comma, a semicolon, an exclamation point, question mark, quotations. I love seeing quotations in essays, but that's a personal thing. That's how I would share my story in a lot of ways. Making sure that you're using those to your advantage because it helps guide the reader, even if things like paragraph breaks don't copy in properly. Also reading, and this is one that the blue squiggle line sometimes shows up, but sometimes it doesn't. Check for extra letters, extra spaces in your essay. It can kind of trip you up when you're reading and you don't even realize it. So you might have looked at your essay so many times that you've glazed past because you're like, yeah, that sentence looks right. But an admissions reader for a second might like jolt and not even like really recognize it, or they might really recognize it and then they're gonna get stuck and be like, oh, there's two spaces there. They probably won't actually care all that much, but just a nice thing to double check for. Making sure that you're using the right word. So especially with there, and there, we're not just patting you on the back and, comforting you through this process, which we are all cheering you on silently or very verbosely, making sure that you are using the right word for what you're trying to communicate. And then students sometimes are using words that, you're trying to fit the bill. You're trying to have your shoulders back up and straight and, have that strong first impression and show that you're ready for college. Make sure that this is in your words, right? So using the best word to convey what your message is that you are comfortable using. I realized recently that I love the word exuberant. I was using it totally wrong, completely horribly wrong, to the point that now I have a personal ban on the word exuberant because I had trained myself incorrectly on what it means. If that's something like you, have somebody else read it and double check and be like, oh, okay, like, oh, this word doesn't sound like you, right? You want that essay to sound like you. It's your voice within a paper application. You can kind of think of it as like Tom Riddle's diary. I've been rewatching Harry Potter right now. So shares your story through a page so somebody gets to really know you. Once you've done the copy edit, the third read through is where you bring in that new perspective. This is your essay. It's your personal statement. It should be written by you in your voice. You should have spent time drafting and reviewing this. That copy editing step can be a really great opportunity for somebody else to do that for you or with you rather. But otherwise, we see a lot of students who go through a lot of drafts, or even if you have to submit an essay for an English teacher, or your parents want to read it, or Granted Advanced reads it, and then your friend reads it, and a different one of your teachers reads it, and all of those people are giving you feedback on your essay, it's really easy for your voice to get lost in the mix. So limit the amount of people that you're letting see your essay and reading it. When somebody else reads your essay, it's really helpful because they haven't been staring at it. They can take an outsider perspective. It's really great. When they are evaluating, make sure that instead of using that red pen harshly, they're in suggestion mode on your Google or Word doc, or they are just commenting things, and then have a conversation with you about what they took away from your essay. So if you're thinking about that first read through for theme, you could say, okay, like, hey, mom and dad, if you were reading this essay, what are you learning about me? Or is there something that you, as my parents who have known me my entire life, feel like is a really big part of my personality that might be missing? Or can you pull out 5 values that you see represented in this essay, as well as where and kind of to what weight? For that second read through, hey, mom and dad, can you help me check my punctuation? Give them that clear task, because then it'll help what people are looking for. So when I have essay appointments, I'll reach out to the student ahead of time and I'll say, hey, what do you want to evaluate? Are you looking for your essay at large, just some generic feedback? Are you on draft 5 or are you on draft 1? Are you trying to think about topics? Do you want to look at that punctuation piece? We can look at all of the above, but help me figure out what you want to get out of this, because it's your time and it's your essay. Do the same thing with those families. So is this truly your stories told in your words based on what they know about you? Is there any of those editing pieces that you might have missed? And what are they taking away? What is the theme that they would sit back if they were somebody who didn't know you? What are the things that they're reading through and in between the lines? The last thing you want to do is those final checks. So depending on where you are when you came into this tonight, this might be where you are. You've already drafted your essay, rewritten your essay, you've got great examples, you've got a great theme, you feel like that thread's there, you've got a good hook, you've checked your punctuation, you've had somebody else look over this, you're feeling good about this. Before you hit submit, a couple things to do. A, take a break. I know it sounds hard to do, especially with some of those deadlines coming up. Take at least 24, preferably like 72 hours away from your essay. That way, when you reread it, you can say, oh, okay, I have fresh eyes. I feel like I'm not like retyping draft after draft after draft, immediately making these changes that feel very minute at the end of it. Now you're rereading it. How do you feel about your essay? Do you feel like it's an accurate representation of who you are? And does it share the message that you want to share going forward at the next stage of your life? Because it's you going to campus, right? It's your path. It's up to you to figure out, what do you want to share? Make sure that at this point, it's been a long process. Take that deep breath, right? And then you add it to your application. If you're using the Common App, your essay should be written in a Google Doc somewhere else, or a Word doc, or wherever else you've typed out your essay. You're going to copy all of that, paste it into the text box on the specific application or on your Common application. And then on the Common app, there's a preview button. Like I said, when you copy and paste, sometimes spacing comes in weird. You're going to reread it in the format that it's now copied in. That's when you go back, you add paragraph breaks if it's important to you, and you can see using that preview button exactly what an admissions reader is getting. And you say, oh, okay, like this is missing a paragraph break and it's stopping me up when I'm going. You can go in and you can add things, or maybe you forgot to copy in that last period or the first 2 letters of a word, whatever it may be. Take a second, just double check. Did it pull in the way that you wanted it to? Then when you have finished your personal statement, keep telling that story. So like I said, your Common App has a lot of opportunities for you to share who you are, from your transcript to that activities list, your honors and awards, that additional information section in your essay, even things like your demographics, making sure that everything is, spelled properly, capitalized, those proper nouns, do that copy editing step on every piece of your application that you've already done. And then when you get to the school specific, keep going. You've already now written a really awesome personal statement. Check those supplementals. Supplementals are going to be a bit different. They're not just you telling your story. I like to think of it as building the bridge between you and the school. So it'll take a little bit more of that English class style essay with thesis. The thesis is whatever the question they are asking. So why do I want to go to awesome university? Oh, well, I've done this research into awesome university. Now I know that in my knowledge bank, and I'm going to take what I learned about this school and what I know about myself, and I'm going to type this beautiful supplemental within the new word count that they've given that shows what I know about me, what I know about the school, and what makes us together a really awesome pairing. And now I've answered that question. It's really awesome kind of task. It can be really exhausting. It's a bit more inquisitive. You're doing more research, more balance there, different game. It's kind of balancing in the in-between, right? If you have questions about supplementals, I'm happy to read them and talk about that more with you at any point. But then keep telling your story outside of your application as well. This is your opportunity to now take your story and test it live and actually go and shake somebody's hand or digitally shake somebody's hand. Connect with admissions. Admissions is looking at your application in context. There's necessary context designed and built into the application that you're submitting digitally through things like your school profile, your transcript, your recommendation letters are a really great opportunity to put in context. That additional information section is a really great place to add needed context if you have it, but keep building that context. Connect with your admissions counselor. They operate in territories most of the time. So if that person has been to a college fair, has come to your school, has wrote you a specific email, there's a good chance that they are the person who's reading your application. That's the person that the student should be asking questions to, reaching out directly and saying, hey, I've got a question about XYZ. Can you tell me more about this program? I did a little bit of research on this thing, but I'd love some more information. Keep building that connection with them. It could be a factor in your admission, not always, but kind of keep building in and adding that context. But you've worked really hard up until this point. There's people in your corner. There are people who want to keep helping you, and we are proud of you. If you attend an Apply NH Day, you'll see benefits to those. They have fee waivers for those New Hampshire schools. So check with your school counselor if you have one of them coming up, or maybe you already had one. Have somebody else do that final check with you, and then they're going to celebrate. They're going to hoot and holler. They're going to ring a cowbell, slam a gong, whatever else it may be, because now you've worked really hard on your essay and you're submitting the best quality of your work. That's an accurate representation of who you are. So I know that was very fast, but that was kind of the whole point on a weeknight, right? Those are your final tips and tricks on submitting your essay. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to throw those in the chat, the Q&A. I'll stick around and answer some of those. If you're watching this recording after the fact, feel free to reach out to us using any of the listed means on the screen now. So we've got that phone line that's monitored from 8 to 5 every day. We have that email address that's also monitored 8 to 5 every day, but every once in a while you'll get an email at a kind of a strange time because sometimes we have night presentations like tonight. That website there, granitedadvance.org, that's where you can book one of those one-on-one appointments. We'll read through your essay with you. We'll talk about financial aid and all the next steps that come with the college admissions process. And then if you have feedback on this specific presentation, the QR code to the left of your screen allows you to give us feedback on this presentation so that we can make it better for the next time that we do it. Any additional questions, things that you loved, things that you would love to know more about, you can put all that information in there. So I'm going to stop the recording here and stop sharing the screen. So if you have any of those questions, feel free to start typing those in the chat now. And I will stick around.